And welcome back to the channel where we talk about only good comics. I'm Brant Fowler, and this is Friday First. This is the series where we talk about brand new number one issues, new story arcs, new character debuts, and the like for the week upcoming. So this one's for Valentine's Day, February 14th and 13th for those DC books. So yeah, let's get into some content. Last week I asked you all if you would like to see me do like a recap of last week's books, the new number ones that I talked about in the last video. I got at least one comment saying that that would be cool. So I thought I would do that again this week. I did read 4 new number ones this week, so I'll talk briefly about those. So the first one is Wolverine Madripoor Nights, issue number 1. And this is one of those nostalgic throwback books to a classic era in X-Men lore during like Uncanny. I can't remember what time period it took place in, but it's when Wolverine was Patch, and Jubilee was still a kid. So that era of Uncanny X-Men. So this book is about Wolverine in Madripoor with Black Widow and Jubilee and Psylocke, and they're there for one reason. Captain America shows up for another reason, asks for help, and that's kind of where we kick off things. They're battling the Hand, and Psylocke goes off with Jubilee and does her thing with the Hand, while Black Widow, Captain America, and Wolverine, as we leave this issue, go after their mission, which is to stop this weapon that has popped up in Madripoor. So I thought it was a pretty decent issue. If you're into that era of X-Men, it did feel very nostalgic. Felt like it was pulled right out of that time period. It was solid storytelling. The art was decent. So like if you love that era and you want a story told in that era, a story you didn't get, some kind of lost tale while something else was happening, this is definitely a book for you. I enjoyed it. Will I continue reading it? I don't know. It depends on the week. If there's a lot of books that week, this is a book I don't really need to have, but it is this nice little pocket of nostalgia that I didn't mind at all. It was one of the better ones. So that's Wolverine Madripoor Nights. Another number one book that I read was let's see, where do I want to go to next? Thundercats number 1, which was my most anticipated book of the week. I thought it was good. The art was fantastic. The dialogue, the storytelling was fine. It didn't like pull me in as much as I had hoped. It did kind of give you a very, very quick kind of recap of who the Thundercats are, why they're there. I didn't feel like it spent enough time developing the characters in this issue. It was like you were thrown into a lot of exposition and then a lot of action, so it didn't quite do what I had hoped it was going to do for me. I thought it warranted enough to check out a second issue, but there were some gaps there. And if this is the storytelling that it is going forward, that might be a deterrent for me. And that's been kind of a theme with Dynamite licensed books for me, is that they compact a bunch of history and exposition into a very small space to try to kind of shotgun you into this world without spending the time to slow down and just kind of reestablish these characters as brand new. And I think this one falls into that same trap, unfortunately. So not as good as I'd hoped, but it was decent. Then we have Ultimate Black Panther number 1, the sought after book, selling out everywhere. I thought this was a decent start. Did it make me a Black Panther fan? Not necessarily. I did appreciate that they did kind of, give you the history of this version of Wakanda without overwhelming you with a lot of backstory, which was always kind of a thing with me. It was every time I tried a Black Panther book, it was a lot of stuff you had to be introduced to and remember, and a lot of political stuff going on. And while we did have some of that here with him struggling with what it means to be king and trying to do away with the old ways and tradition and all that stuff, and being accused of being kind of a non-active king, and not doing what he needs to do, and ultimately that no pun intended, that leads to repercussions for Wakanda and kind of springboards them into war. But I thought it was a decent introduction to this version of Black Panther. Some of the players that they introduced, you're questioning, like, why are they there? Why are they on that side? What's going on? Why is there conflict here? So I think it did enough to tease like what this version of Wakanda is about and what this version of Black Panther is about, but not enough to like really pull you into a lot of the characters involved in this first issue. You're curious, I think, is where it left me at the end. I was curious, I was intrigued, but I wasn't totally invested yet. So that's where I am with Ultimate Black Panther #1. And finally, we have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers: The Return. This is written by Amy Jo Johnson, who played Kimberly Hart, the Pink Ranger, on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV series that my brother was addicted to as a kid. And I wasn't a fan until, like Kat pointed out on our latest episode of Comic Book Weekly, if you did not get to check it out, I read the crossover between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers written by Ryan Parrott, and that pulled me into the world of Power Rangers, and I've been reading it ever since. This alternate version, this is more following the line from the TV show, and like what if they had beaten Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa and 22 years had passed? What has happened to these characters and what brings them back together? This was a really good issue. It reintroduced you to some of your main players here. You got Billy, you got Zach, you got Kimberly, and you got talk about Jason. You even find out what happened with Trini and Tommy, or at least somewhat what happened to them. And you get introduced to a solid plot going forward, why they're pulled together for a memorial, and then why they stay together because Jason has gone rogue. And I thought this was brilliantly constructed, brilliantly written. We get introduced to a new character by the end of this that has ties to this world, and just really interesting. This for me is how you do like a comeback. Like if you're going far into the future and you're laying out what's happened before it, and you're reintroducing like new readers to this concept and old readers that are old fans of the original Power Rangers that want to pick up where that story left off. This did all those things, and it did it brilliantly. And I thought it was really solid, really good. The art was really nice. Definitely the best #1 that I read from last week, personally. So, yeah, there you go. That's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers: The Return, issue #1. So that's it for the recap. So let's get into the books that are coming out next week. So first up, we have Red Hood, The Hill, #1. I'll be honest, I'll start off with, I have not read #0 yet. So there is that disclaimer going into this. So I still don't know how I feel about this series yet. Red Hood, The Hill, #1, preceded by #0. And, we'll see what happens with this. I'm still curious about this series. I'm still wanting to read a good Red Hood book. I like the character. I like him on his own when he's done right. I think this character has a lot of potential, but does this book have potential? I think it does. So I'm giving it a potentially good, but I still don't know. And maybe if I'd read #0 before I did this, I would have a better feeling for this book. But unfortunately, I have not gotten the chance to do that yet. So Red Hood #1, still intrigued by it, still think it has potential. Next up is Sinister Sons #1, written by Peter J. Tomasi, who I believe did the Super Sons stuff as well. I like both of these characters. This is the son of Sinestro and the son of Zod. And if you've read Neil before Zod and you've read the backup stories in Green Lantern, you're a little familiar with these characters now. I think pairing them up is really interesting. They both have a chip on their shoulder. They both, like, one of them thinks their father isn't doing enough. The other one is estranged from his father and trying to get back to him. So it's an interesting pairing, and I don't know. I have high hopes for this. I think it's going to be fun at the very least. I've enjoyed the sinister. I mean the backup story in Green Lantern a little bit. So character at least. Zod's son, I didn't really love that first issue of Nil Before Zod, so don't have a whole lot to go on. I haven't read issue 2 yet. So I don't know. But I do think it has potential, so it's getting potentially good for me. Next up, we have Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver #1. This is following up from the Scarlet Witch series, but I think it's a different creative team. So Steve Orlando wrote the previous one, I believe. Oh no, Orlando's writing this one as well. Okay, so yeah, so it's the I thought it was, but then I saw something that made me think it was a different creative team. But anyway, same creative team, so it's just adding Quicksilver to the mix then, which I'm all for. He did pop up here and there in the previous series. They've got a complex relationship, this brother and sister duo, but I really enjoyed the Scarlet Witch series, so I think this one is going to be good. So I'm giving it a promisingly good. I'm not going to say positive yet because I just don't know if it's going to change the dynamic too much, but I definitely think it has some promise. So promisingly good for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver issue #1. Next up, we have the Infernals issue #1 from Image Comics. Normally, this would not be my kind of book. It's, the son of Satan has 1 month to live, is the first line there. And I'm like, not really my thing until I had noticed who was writing it, which is Ryan Parrott, who got me into Power Rangers. So I am going to try anything that Ryan Parrott writes probably because I really like his writing style. So while this isn't necessarily my thing, I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I'm going to go in with an open mind and see what I think because I think the writing at the very least is going to be solid. So I'm going to give this one a promisingly good. And last but not least, Night Thrasher issue #1, my most anticipated for this week. I am a huge New Warriors fan. I love this character. I got the original series featuring Night Thrasher as well. It's nostalgia wrapped up into kind of a return kind of vibe for me. So I'm really excited about this one. At the same time, I'm trying to meter my expectations. Also, the writer, who is Jason Hawtham, I'm not incredibly familiar with their work, but I did read the first issue of Bishop War College, which I believe they wrote, and that just wasn't my thing. So that gives me a little pause. At the same time, you're dealing with Night Thrasher and Silhouette, and the New Warriors is mentioned in here. There's a mystery. It's a mystery book, so that is always a plus in the column. A check in the plus column is what I was trying to say for me. So I'm excited about this one. I'm going to give it a promisingly good, just not positive. But Night Thrasher, I'm excited about it. Are you excited about it? Did you read the original New Warriors? If you did and you love New Warriors, I think you're going to be as excited about this book as I am. I know my friend Mike Spiderslayer, same thing as me, is probably very excited about this as well. I can't wait to read this. Hopefully it's good. I really want it to be good. But that's it. That's all we've got for this episode of Friday First. Hope you enjoyed it. Not a whole lot of books to talk about this week, but that's okay. And I hope you enjoyed the recap aspect of it as well. I'll continue to try to do that if everybody enjoys that part of it. And so that's it. I want to remind you that I do have a Kickstarter running through Monday for The Last Ember. It's a lenticular cover. So it changes images as you turn it, which is really cool. So check that out at embercomic.com/KS if you're interested in backing that. Ends Monday. So with that being said, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. Hit that subscribe and notification bell if you don't want to miss any of the content going up on this channel. Of course, you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics and come back here to YouTube via onlygoodcomics.com as we talk about only good comics. Until then, take care. Keep reading those comics.